What up? What up? How's it going? Welcome to the TNA post show over here at Body Slam, joined by the great Io. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Having a good time this Thursday evening, soon to be Friday. Got my
Yeah,
Carlos Silva like Kevin Feige like hat, I guess you could say. Trying to do my own part, kiss like doing the own Frankie and kiss up part, but I'm doing good. How about you, man?
yeah. I was popped. I popped tonight when Frankie Kazarian came out dressed like him, and then he said
Yeah,
he had a great line where he was pointing out how good he smelled, and I believe he said that he was wearing Silva Bullet.
yeah,
I was dying.
yeah,
Kazarian's too good. But yeah, no, I'm doing good tonight. It was a great show. A lot of good wrestling shit this week. A lot of big news to talk about. But
yeah.
before we get into all of that, just want to remind everyone that tonight's show is always brought to you by Shroom Bar, the protein mushroom bar. It's made up of not psychedelics, but 4 powerful mushroom adaptogens. It has lion's mane, which increases focus, memory, and neuroplasticity, making it easier to form new patterns and learn new things. Next time you're trying to learn that new move, it will actually stick instead of forgetting it immediately. It has cordyceps, which increases VO2 max, blood flow, and overall endurance. It has reishi, which decreases stress. It has turkey tail, which boosts your immune system. And we all know you're going to need that when you're on those nasty-ass gym mats. On top of all that, it has 12 grams of protein. Go to eatshroombar.com and use code BODYSLAM at checkout for 25% off your first order. All right, Io. Before we get into everything TNA, and there's a lot to talk about, I think there's, as you reminded me before the show started when we were talking, there's a lot of wrestling news this week, and I think the big thing, and I think everyone knows at this point, WWE is ESPN is about the rights to WWE starting 2026. Is that correct?
That's correct. 2026 WWE PLEs from like Rumble, Elimination Chamber, Mania, et cetera, et cetera, is moving to ESPN platforms. We'll address we'll address why some think that's a bad idea. Well, obviously it's freaking ESPN, of course. Yeah, I mean, like this is like the head of of all sports platforms. But of course, we'll address why some don't think that's a good idea. But yeah, you continue. You continue.
No, I was just gonna say ESPN out there spending money. I'm assuming people also saw the news that they acquired the rights to the NFL Network and the Red Zone as well.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about ESPN being ESPN. Yeah, they're out there like cementing themselves and as far as WWE being on ESPN, it makes sense. That's the home of
Yeah,
UFC. TKO owns WWE. You know what I mean? It made
yeah.
sense,
It
but
was only a matter of time. You say like yeah, like TKO, the UFC, and of course ESPN is a part of the Disney family. With Disney Plus and Hulu, which Hulu is about to be discontinued. So this is kind of like it's kind of like the pinnacle as far as like the streaming first streaming, like this is kind of like the pinnacle of where WWE is heading to. There's Netflix and then there's ESPN basically. And
yeah,
Netflix, Disney Plus, and ESPN is part of the Disney family. So yeah,
yeah, we're getting it's almost like two networks battling basically, or almost like choosing between cable and satellite a little bit. You know what I mean? Just you have two giants now because yeah, like you said,
yeah,
Hulu is going into uh, Disney Plus. You know what I mean? That's ESPN as well,
hmm
and so who else is this? You know what I mean? And so like, what were you? I wanted you to talk about. What were you thinking next? Like, why don't you think people are gonna like this?
mainly because of the pricing. Well, I'll say for start. Well, for two things. Well, one will be the pricing. WWE fans going from like a $10 a month to like now going to like a $29 monthly. it's kind of like a scratching head, like because you're paying like about a few dollars more and stuff. But knowing like this is, but because like it's the same with MMA fans and like UFC. Like UFC pay-per-views are insanely ridiculous. I won't even go far explain like for like their pay-per-views. Um, cause like for like UFC also, or so like for UFC pay-per-views, they're like additional pricing. Like even
Yeah,
if you're even if yeah even I know like I still deal with this nonsense too. Like even like when you already subscribe to like the ESPN Plus stream or whatnot, you still have to buy like or the same like amount for the pay-per-views. You could say it's almost a similar way with TNA Plus, but TNA Plus offers more. You know what I mean? Like we still get
yeah,
the monthly specials and the weekly episodes. So for WWE fans, it's like okay, so it's like okay, let me get this straight. So if I want to watch, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, all the other PLEs, I gotta add a few dollars more stuff to like to a subscription service that I'm still subscribing monthly to. I mean, you could say yeah for that aspect. Number two, ESPN. Obviously ESPN is a sports stream and stuff. How you kind of wonder like how much increase of audience is WWE actually gonna get? Because are people actually gonna like? I mean, are people actually gonna buy more to kind of watch the WPLEs, especially from a new audience who streams for like sports in particular? So yeah.
and
Those are
real
yeah,
quick,
those are my other than that, it's a big win, business wise, for WWE. So that's just my
yeah. Has it been announced if there's going to be a similar model to UFC where you're going to have to pay an extra charge for the pay-per-views? Have they said that?
um
What,
not that I heard. From my understanding, they're still looking for a deal. TKO for looking a new deal for UFC because I think their ESPN deal is coming up soon. From my understanding.
yeah, that'd be a lot to ask the fans to, because that's basically going and how you're explaining with UFC. That's just like how back in the day if you had to have cable to buy the pay-per-view through. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you're paying a lot for, and so if you're paying a lot for the app already, and then having to pay a fee if they're going to go back to charging $50 a show, UFC I believe is upwards to about 100. I don't see WWE doing that. I would hope not, especially with 5 match cards. Um, yeah, that would suck. And the only thing I could I could see being the saving grace to all is because you had mentioned Hulu is basically folding into Disney Plus, but ESPN is owned by Disney. If they somehow, cause they have bundles now where you could get both apps for a good price, I think that will a little entice a few more people. But the idea of having to pay for Netflix for Raw and then having to watch to get ESPN for everything else, you know,
Okay.
you're asking a
Real
lot
quick.
from the fans.
Sorry to remember. So the statement they inked the 5 year, 325 million per year deal with ESPN to their PLEs. Direct to consumer service will be 29.99 PLEs. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of insane, but yeah.
That's very, yeah. And
Oh wait. Oh, and someone added, the service will be free to those who have ESPN as part of their cable package. So like
okay.
if it's like a cable package, so to speak.
Yeah,
But
that's
we'll see
basically
how it goes. Yeah.
good for ESPN, good for their shareholders, and WWE, bad for the people who have to, will then enjoy the product. It's just more money for
Yeah.
them to pay.
Yeah.
Um, I think we can kind of transition this. Where do you think this? Because there was also there has been a lot of TNA news when it comes to the streaming end. Nothing's been
Yeah.
announced yet. But where do you
So
think this leaves TNA?
so yes. But with that being said, WWE will be WWE will be leaving Peacock next year, as you know their deal's coming up. And from my understanding, Peacock's not done with the wrestling business, like getting involved with the wrestling business. So obviously, ding ding ding, you would assume like WWE is doing what they can to have TNA, take their spot as far as being on Peacock, and having wrestling content there and stuff, which would be obviously a massive win for TNA. As we mentioned, Carl Silva is looking for like a new media deal for like a 10 million, and working with Peacock and NBC in particular, NBC Universal in particular, that would be a massive deal because like that's WWE's former home and stuff, and would be massive for exposure because for my Carlos, he's it's from my understanding, he's not just about like getting the money. He wants TNA to get more exposure. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
main thing. More exposure, more seen, and more eyes, especially in the U.S. He's also looking at UK deals and Germany deals, as he said in recent interviews. So yeah, if from my understanding, Peacock isn't a front runner, I believe, as reported. But yeah, it would be a massive win for TNA if they were able to land a deal like this somehow. Let's say by next year or so. So yeah, that's kind of like how TNA could possibly get involved. This because WWE, they're because they helped them with getting the Sportsnet deal, which is in Canada. So I wouldn't be surprised if they helped them get this deal here too.
Yeah, that would be, I think, a great deal for TNA. Yeah, they WWE leaves, they slide into that spot of the wrestling. There's also it fits Peacock is the wrestling part just because I think they have Premier League soccer, they have
Hmm.
motocross, they have a few other things, so they have a sports presence. And yeah, NBC, that's people know those letters, so I think that would be the best fit so far, and especially of all the other rumors we've heard of networks, I think that is the best. A&E, CW, I think NBC that by far is the best. So we can only hope.
Hmm.
Okay. Anything else you wanna talk about?
Um, the personal concierge appeared on NXT. That was pretty interesting. Same with Moose and Joe Hendry. Um, Max and Jeremy Buck wrestled on AEW Dynamites, as TNA fans are familiar familiar with those names. So that's
Generation Me.
yeah,
Uh, God, that was a horrible name.
yeah,
Damn, I still can't. Going back to that real quick. Yeah, I remember their time in TNA. I believe it was like 2010, 2011, or
yeah.
2012. They were booked so badly. A few things stand out though. Obviously, the empty arena match they had with the machine guns stands out to me. Um, I believe they both competed in a Ultimate X singles match. I mean, in the Ultimate X match separately. That was good. But yeah, they were booked so terribly, and so it's great to see them having success somewhere else. I thought they were going to be ruined. You know what I mean when they were in TNA.
Yeah. I think they kind of surprised everyone at how well they kept the pace. Because Matt and Nick, they've been doing this for a while. They're also they've been quite the hustlers, quite as far as like making strides, from PWGs to like obviously in Ring of Honor and Bullet Clubs. But yeah, it was their TNA run. That they talked about it in their book. It wasn't really quite wasn't really quite as how they imagined it or so. I mean, despite the good matches they had there and stuff. So yeah, it was it was very funny for them. Obviously, they're going through a storyline where they lost their EVPs, and now they're being. I mean, you watch Dynamite too. Like now
Yeah.
they're being. They're shown. They're presented. They're basically. They're basically nothing right now. They have nothing. No pyro. No entrance music. It's so. But it was very funny. You know they were introduced as Max and Jeremy Buck. So
That's what's funny about like modern day wrestling. Like that's like a storyline that a company would even mention. A company mentioning their other name when you know what I mean.
yeah.
They won. They were kind of shitty. So yeah, and like you said, they're almost doing like a broke Baron Corbin gimmick. You know what I
Ex-
mean? They're really
yeah.
down on their luck right now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into tonight's TNA, which I thought this was. You know what I mean? It was a slow show in terms of it's not like we're 2 weeks out from Emergence. I didn't expect a lot to happen. We got some matches made, which was great, and they're good matches on top of what we've already had before. But yeah, no, I thought this was a solid show. But we opened up with Trick kicking things off. Trick and A.
Mm-hmm.
He was just talking a lot of shit as he has been as champion, but that you know what I mean. I'm fine with that. I like how Trick has come into his own as a heel. I think he is top tier at this stuff. So yeah, one of the things that he said that stood out to me because Emergence is going to be in Baltimore and he's taking on Moose. He said he doesn't have a problem beating a man down in his hometown. Ask Santana. I thought that was a really, really good heel
Yeah.
line. What would you think about this segment?
You know, it's crazy. Like a year ago, if this was a year ago, both guys will be different. Both guys will would be in different positions. Like Trick would have been the baby face, Moose being the heel. But like here we are, Moose is kind of the baby face, and Trick being the heel. So yeah, this is a pretty good segment. Trick, trying to get in Moose's head, or at least attempt to, talking down his family, well, insulting his family and stuff, and then Moose, coming down, you know, wasn't, didn't feel need to talk, hit him with the microphone, was gonna go for the spear, Trick got out the way. Simple way building to emergence. What's gonna be interesting is because they're both partners next Tuesday, and they man tag again with Oba and Javon against Dark State. So you kind of wonder, are they gonna get along for that one night, or tension's still gonna go? So see what goes from there.
I think it's been a very easy transition for Moose just to be to transition to a heel, into a baby face, just because it's an easy sell when you just throw out his credentials and then his tenure in the company. You know what I mean? He has been one of the guys that's put the promotion on his back since being there. Yeah, but no, I really like this. I think the
Yeah.
dynamic is going to lead to a really good match.
Thing is, the crowd, even when he's a heel, the crowd still, chants his name. They still pop for like his, big moves and stuff. Yeah, going to babyface, I don't think was going to be difficult for him. It's just like the timing. I, I think, yeah, the system, like moves of the system, they've been kind of been heels for long. I guess it was time for like a freshen up, as they're kind of like now the defenders of TNA, from like the outsiders and stuff. So I kind
Yeah.
of like the transition. Yeah.
Next, we're going to go into what I thought was. I didn't expect this. I was taken back by how good the segment was. It was just Gia Miller, and this was pissed off Gia. You know what I mean? This is I think the slow build, the storyline has been outstanding. Gia just grabs the mic. I didn't grabs the mic from Gabby. Is that who the announcer was? Is it still Gabby?
Gabby Lasparza.
Yeah. But she just grabs the mic and tells Tessa she's run out of patience with her, and the next time Tessa puts her hand on her, she's gonna fucking kill her. And I was like, God damn! Like, so they got something cooking with this. Yeah, they got something cooking with this. So
yeah,
I thought it was funny for her to go right back into announcing. I like that, how she had to basically, address the personal stuff, and then she went right back into announcing. She called Joe Hendry out, and he just basically called out Ali, said he hides behind the Secret Service, and just kind of hyped up the match. But what did you think about all this?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually surprised Lucia came back so quickly. But yeah, this was an excellent segment. Yeah, and I'm very excited to see what happens here. Like, well, obviously when Tessa comes back and stuff, and then Gia. I mean, we all known Gia for a long time. Like there's many sides of Gia. There's the happy Gia. There's the funny Gia, entertaining Gia. But this was a very serious Gia Miller. Like letting Miss Blanchard know, like she's put up with your BS since honestly since Tessa returned. Like obviously, I'm sure you remember when she returned. She pie faced Gia, and then here we are, and then it's gone to the situation where she's not playing. Like, and I'm very interested to see if Tessa provoke. I mean, I put it in a tweet. Provoke her, damn it, because I want to see what happens. So yeah, even Gabby was shooked. Like once after like you could see that. So yeah, as far as the Joe Hendry segment, yeah, it was a good way to build up to the main event and stuff.
Next, we had just a quick Sami and Santana promo, and I really like this just because this feud. Basically, Mike Santana said that he heard what Sami said. He wants the match too. They really couldn't get much in before the Northern Armory interrupted. EY was going really hard on Santana, basically talking about how he failed, saying his daughter and family had to watch him fail. Callihan, Sami had to hold him back. This was good. This was good stuff.
Yeah, this was good stuff. I'm glad that Santana, sorry, sorry, sorry. I'm glad that Santana let him know that he's still hunting, for the TNA World Title, but putting that on pause, to help out an old friend, doing the match with Sami. And then comes the Northern Armory and EY. Of course, EY still being angry and letting them know. Well, he specifically targeting Santana, letting them know that you let the roster down. You let the roster down at Slammiversary, and even brought up his family, and then Sami had to call Santana back, and then whatnot. I'm looking for I'm looking forward to them colliding, Santana and EY. I think that's the first time ever. But I remember I know Santana put up a good comeback on EY. So EY said, "While you were in high school, I was running this place," and then Santana he tweeted back saying like, "When I was in high school, you were super Eric," and he puts up a super Eric photo, and he said, "You ain't running shit." So yeah, that was funny there. So, but yeah, and fun, nice segment there.
That's awesome. That's really cool that this is their first time wrestling each other. Their
Yeah,
paths cross. That's awesome. You know what I mean? These guys have been
yeah,
in the business a long time. Eric, a little
yeah,
bit longer, but yeah, that's really cool. Okay. Next, we're going to go into, well, first we get Frankie Kazarian, as we mentioned. He's dressed as Carlos Silva. He joins the commentary for the International Championship match. Jake something versus Steve Maclin. As along with calling the match, Hannafin was basically showing his disgust for Kazarian. They were arguing pretty much back and forth the whole time, which was, I was fine with. That's kind of the narrative right now with Frank Kazarian. He basically is out there to, start shit, and it's
mhm,
coming to, it's kind of worked against TNA, but that's the storyline. But I like this. This was a good match. It ended in a double count out, which, as we will learn later, that we're getting a rematch. But I thought for what this was, I like the chemistry that Steve Maclin and Jake Something has, and I think this is the best Jake Something has looked
Oh yeah, this was bound to be a classic. The moment these two locked eyes, um, yeah, this was very good way, and I kind of liked how it ended. Kind of leave the fans and us wanting more. Um, Both guys, different backgrounds, but they both bring a lot of intensity, like a very lot of intensity into each other. Like one not afraid of the other. I mean, both not afraid of the other, willing to bring a level of the intensity. You know, so this is a good way to kind of continue on continue on the match as we get to the announcements later on and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think this was the right move. Because I wanted this feud to continue. So yeah, I like this. Next, we're gonna move into I'm gonna say part one of what ended up being quite a disturbing segment. Well, maybe not disturbing, but weird. We have Manson SDL. They're looking for Santino, and they knock on his door. And there's no answer, so they just go into his office, and we are left on a cliffhanger. Um, after what we found out, I wish we would have ended on a cliffhanger. I didn't want to know what was happening, but we'll check back in with that later. But I want you to think about this.
This I was just say, like, my response is enter the R Trude. I don't know if that's PG gif after that. So, well, I mean, no one's in Santino's office, and Steph and Mance took it upon themselves to go inside. So I think we kind of have to, let the imagination sit there.
Next, we just had a quick, what I thought was a very good, for how short it was, Cedric Alexander segment. He just talked about when he was starting out and he decided to dedicate his life to pro wrestling. He looked at the X division. You know what I mean? He talked about the importance of it. I like this.
Agree. Agree. Yeah, show highlighting, the importance of the importance of the X division mean to him and stuff, and letting Leon Slater know that the difference between him and him, he hasn't hit his prime, while Cedric feels he's at his prime right now. So I like that.
Next, we move on to what I thought was probably the second best match of the night. It was the Elegance brand, Heather and Maggie by Heather and
And
M with Iceman, of course, personal concierge, versus Xia Li and Lei Ying Li. This was a really good match. Uh, I didn't realize it, and again, maybe it's because Heather is on the short side. Maggie's like a giant next to her. You know what I mean? And they have a very good dynamic in the ring. Obviously, you know what I mean. The way that there was a dope spot in the match when she had like a code breaker, and then I think it was Maggie grabbed her for a roll up. It was really smooth. But I really liked this match, and I thought that Xia and Ying Li continue to work really well with each other. I think that's a good team, and that's what they should roll with going forward.
oh yeah, good chemistry in this match. I like to. Um, you can really see how nice chemistry between Heather and M. You know, obviously both different sizes, but both work flawlessly. And the same goes with Brookside and Lady Ling. Like I know they've been partners, for there and there, but this is kind of like the first time they're actually in trying to contend for the tag titles and stuff. So yeah, it's very nice. I also am a fan of Lady Link's finisher. The spinning cutter she does and stuff. It's pretty good.
Mhm.
So as we'll get into the emergence matches later on. What's interesting is that the Elegance brand they're kind of like on a 2-0 losing streak. No, I mean no, I'm sorry. They lost the last two matches. Like Heather got pinned during the live episode. Now M got pinned tonight. So as you'll see, why Ash gets frustrated in the segment, well, you'll bring up later. So, yeah. But yeah, it was a good tag match for good knockouts tag match.
Yeah, it was cooking definitely. Zaya is such a good baby. She's like a prototypical baby face. Like she's very easy to root for. I
Mm,
really hope like down the
definitely.
line. I hope down the line they definitely they make her. I hope they ascend her to the main event eventually, singles wise. But yeah, I like her as a tag team right now. But she definitely has main eventer babyface written all over. She's going to be a
I agree.
star.
I agree.
We got a quick bio.
They sorry, they put her in a feud with Rosemary for a reason, I believe, like to see how well she can
Mhm.
do, like in different situations, like especially like a Monsters Ball. So yeah, I think Zaya has yet to hit her prime, and she's still prime for bigger things. So yeah.
Yeah, she needed that match because that's a match people will point to when they talk about her ascension. You know what I mean? Because we're in the middle of that right now. So
Hmm.
yeah, agree with you. We had just the quick bioflex injury report, and I like these segments just because it just reminds me of like something you see on Raw back in the day.
Hmm.
Uh, we just got quick. Casey Navarro's out. HTM is out, and then they were just let us know that Joe Hendry and Mustafa are clear, but they are definitely showing. They're not 100%. But like I said, I really do like these.
Same. It keeps us updated with our with it help. Actually, it keeps us updated with the roster and who's still on the injury report, who's good to go and stuff.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Well, now I got to talk about what I was alluding to earlier, which I don't want to talk about. But we'll talk. It's fine. But we get part two. We see Santino and his daughter Ariana walking backstage about to their office, and they happen to walk in. We don't see it. It appears that they stumbled upon STL and Manson. Like you said, you can use your imagination, but I think we
Yeah.
all know what was happening in there.
Yeah.
This was hilarious. This was hilarious comedy.
Typical high school, college type of humor. Yeah, we'll just leave it
Yeah,
at that for those who know
yeah.
what I'm talking for those who know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Next, we're gonna go into the Elegance brand segment, which I thought was one of the better segments of the night. Ash is pissed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She her girls let her down. Em and Heather. She basically tells him to get the hell out of the locker room. And what was funny is Iceman thought that didn't pertain to him, but it did. And Ash let her know. But this was good shit.
Yeah. This is yeah, when Ash, we know when Ash can be cocky and stuff, but like when she's really not in the mood, she's not afraid to let her fury out, and that's what we saw there. Especially when she's challenging for the title tonight, like her team losing. I mean, obviously, I mean, from her point, you can't blame her. Like, you're preparing for your own match, but then like, your team is on the other on the losing side. So yeah,
Exactly.
not looking good for the Elegance brand right now. So, yeah,
Okay. Next, we're going to move on to what I ended up being a pretty
yeah, this was
sad
good
segment.
and
It
sad.
was
Yeah,
good. It was emotional. I know you said that you had quite a bit to say on this, so I want you to take the lead on this one. I'm very interested to hear what you had to say about this.
all right, all right. Well, we had the emergency first class penthouse segment with AJ and KC, and from the tweets earlier and stuff, you can tell like things were not going well, and then you see the look on Casey's face, Like you can tell. I mean, for a few steps, you could tell things were not looking good. So Casey, told the bad news that he re-aggravated his knee injury, the Slamversary, to the point where he now torn his ACL, and torn ACL, for as we know, is a very serious injury and whatnot. So speedy recovery for him. Heart goes out to him. Oh, yeah, shout out to Datala. Yeah, we feel bad for Casey.
Exactly, Dacia.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah. So of course, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be surprised for AJ to make this about himself. As after Casey cut the promo, AJ says next man up, and then introducing the returning Rich Swan. You um. So basically, yeah. Swan. Coming back. To take take pick up where he left off. From ironically last year August, which is where last time we saw him. And after that, they him and AJ basically told Casey to hit the bricks, and then AJ was like talking down to like Swan, saying that he was always a replacement, he was always a substitute. I see that's what's coming. Yeah, I wasn't expecting Swan to come back too, but that's I mean, that's how things go. So yeah, AJ was talking down to Casey, calling him a replacement, a substitute. Like before you coming in, he was champion. Swan was champion. But credit to KC. Like I like his comeback. Like Casey was saying that when you didn't want to do most of the work, I was doing it for you. When you didn't want to get dog walked by Mike Santana, I stepped in. Like basically, putting AJ in his place, letting know like, hey, like while you were, you know, doing less work, or whatnot, you're doing fill of yourself. Like Casey was, putting up all your BS and stepping up for you, and like he worked hard to get here. So it was all the like right notes for you to feel bad for Casey and also root for him at the same time. So this was a very good segment. Nice, switch turn of things, for the first class. I'll continue on, but I want to get your comments too. What was your thoughts when Swan came back and then them kicking Casey out?
Yeah, Casey was basically speaking up for like all the guys who are all the people in tag teams like this, where the smaller guy is the one that takes all the hits. You know what I mean? He's the one.
Hmm.
He's like usually the workhorse of the team. You know what I mean? So yeah, I did not expect Swan to come back. Now that I'm thinking about it, is Swan from Baltimore as well?
Yes, right.
So, and who knows if I haven't looked into it. Obviously, AJ is, I mean, Casey's really hurt. So I see what I know. I saw Dante said I wasn't expecting Swan to come back either, but this was a perfect opportunity. You know what I mean? I think all the stars aligned for Swan to come back. And while I agree with Dottie as well, I think I like Casey and AJ a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's what made this segment so heartbreaking. You know what I mean? Um, I like this. You know what I mean? Because like AJ said, next man up, just like in football, and there was chemistry before. I thought they had something going with Swan and AJ. So yeah, I'm fine with this. As for Casey, I think this is just going to make him a super over babyface when he comes
Yeah.
back, depending on how long he's out, which
Yeah.
I would think would be a good amount of time. He would be the one I'd bring back and build up to eventually take the title off Leon Slater, who I would presume would have the title still by that time. So just because I think Casey was a future X Division champion anyway, but yeah, he came off like a mega baby face in this segment.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with Datslo too. I mean, at first, like we know that Casey was meant for bigger and better things, obviously. But in my opinion, I think he really helped elevate the first class group. Like nothing against Rich Swan, like I felt like the chemistry with KC and AJ was really like was really, really good. To the point where like I was even rooting for them. I wanted them to win the tag titles at Slammiversary and stuff. But yeah, this I guess all good things. As I say, all good things come to an end, and like Datla mentioned, like this is a good way to write off Casey and then as he joins the X division. But hopefully, he gets this some payback from Swan and AJ. We'll see what goes from there, but. Yeah, overall, this was good stuff. A great turn of things to like bring Swan back into the fold, make AJ Francis more of a piece of shit, and then obviously the big thing is get behind KC, as he is road to recovery. So good segment.
Yeah, this definitely makes that's definitely evil heel shit on AJ Francis's part. That definitely makes him more of a heel. You know what I mean? More hated than he was. Yeah, Rich versus KC when KC gets back would be very good.
Look for
and then just seeing a KC versus AJ match, how they would book that would be very interesting. Yeah, like Dacia said, if he's going to come back and feud with First Class, he's going to need a tag team partner. Yeah, which is very interesting. That could open up some possibilities. I haven't really thought about that like that, but yeah, that's definitely I could see that. Yeah, but no, this was good. I thought this was like in terms of like the segments, this was the best segment of the night. But yeah, I loved it. Did you have any other things you want to say about this one, Io?
That's about it.
Okay. Next, we're gonna go and do like what I would call let's just call it a squash match, but I think it was more of a showcase match. We had Mara Sadé taking on Vicious Vicki. And really, this wasn't much. It was Mara Sadé basically going out there, a minute or two, hitting her finisher, which is called the appropriately named the Finish Her, which, again, that's great branding. Yeah, and it was a pretty dope move. But, yeah, this was fun. You know what I mean? She needs to win. You know what I mean? We can have her losing when she comes into the company, so.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, good showcase for Mara. As we're still trying to see how she does. As she as she was her former tag partner Lash Legend. From the Metaphor. Um, for my part, like as much as I like the parent, to me, it felt like it was just like Lash Legend and her partner. Like we didn't really get like much of Jakara, formerly known as Jakara, to shine on her or see how they'll do much of the talking because it's always with Lash and like the skirt noise and all that stuff and then NXT and stuff. So this is a good way of seeing what can Mara Sade bring to the table too. So, but I like her finisher. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I agree with you because on one hand, I was upset that they broke that team up. I thought they were just starting to get something going with her and Lash. But I do like how they didn't bring her in and immediately put her in a tag team. I want to see what she can do. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Okay. Next, we're going to go into we had just had a quick NXT rundown, give you a hype. It was just letting you know that on NXT this week, we're going to get Joe Hendry versus Charlie Dempsey. And then, like you said, the All-Star 4-Way tag team match with Trick Williams teaming up with Moose, Obafemi, and Javon Evans to take on Dark State, which should be really good. I think since they've been trying to do something with Dark State, they've definitely become interesting just because of that. You know what I mean? Because there was only room to grow up because they really weren't doing anything with them in terms of, except for just doing the run-ins. So now that they're actually having to wrestle, they become interesting just by that. So I think NXT, if you're a TNA fan this week, should be must watch. But that's just me. So next we're going to go into the Knockouts title match, which was a little underwhelming because it really just ended up with a huge brawl between, Masha ran in and attacked Ash, and then, you had Zaya and Lee running out, and then you had Fatal Influence, the Elegance brand, it just a huge brawl.
It just
which it pretty much
like a 3-minute match, and then all hell broke loose after.
And again, it's more context, especially when we get the match announcement later in the night, just because it kind of makes sense of that whole shit. You know what I mean? Because really, it was kind of a title match wasted. I don't know if that's Ash's. Well, basically, because that was Ash's shot. She was cashing in her title match. So I don't know where they go from there. So because it was supposed to be Masha getting the winner. So I'm assuming they're going to be. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was agreeing with you exactly.
So do you think we're going towards a triple threat at Emergence?
Pretty much. Pretty much as I'll say another reason from one of the Emergence matches announced, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, well, the match was never decisive. Actually, yeah, both Jacy's title matches were never had like a decisive finish. Like last week, Ash got involved. Then now this week, Masha got involved. So Masha was supposed to face one of the winners, and we'll kind of like see where it goes from there. I mean, yeah, Masha's supposed to face one of the winners. We know Ash, but we know Ash is not gonna take this line down, obviously. So it's kind of one of those like, okay, how do we handle this situation?
I would think that they would go to a triple threat, and if that's the case, I would have Jacy pin Masha, just because I think that because I don't think Masha's winning in the long run. So I would rather have Jacy cement her run in terms of pinning the former champ twice. And as far as like just real quick talking about in terms of Jacy and where this is going, I right now I don't see anyone, or I don't see a clear person that they're building towards taking the title off of her from TNA on TNA's roster. You know what I mean? Is there anyone? If I can get your thought on that real quick. Who do you think is taking the title off of her?
Other than Masha, I mean, they could build her back up, but the other person is Indy Hartwell, because her story, and then the big wins she's been having. And it's no secret. Indy's been saying like she's as a kid she's held TNA toys, and like the actual one. Um, but well, it depends on how well she builds herself, and like can she hang with certain names, not just Tessa, but like other names. So we'll see. We'll see where her path leads. I mean, also Masha could win the title back too, because hey, because a I know, like, even though she's appeared on NXT a couple times, she's only wrestled once there, so I wouldn't say there's no reason for her not to come back and wrestle NXT more. Obviously, to target Jacy and Fatal Influence, so don't be surprised, if Masha does get the title back, because she's not one of those that's just gonna like stay down for the long run. So
yeah, that's very true. I think that is more of a likely scenario than I'm giving credit to it. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Next, we're going to move into we had a quick Hardys promo. This is, you're going to go with the Hardys promo. They're just talking about being TNA World Tag Team Champions. I like this. I really like pretty much all Hardy promos. What did you think about this?
Yeah, this is pretty good. Hardys letting the tag division know, they're here to establish their legacy and stuff, and then come step up to them if you're there.
I really could see a likely scenario where they are.
Yeah. Oh, you continue.
Oh, I was going to say, I could, especially just because I think that we're going to start getting like more than one member. I could see a likely scenario where they're going to get in the Hall of Fame this year. I think it would make sense. You know what I mean? They both had great TNA careers, so I don't know. I think I could see that.
Yeah, what's interesting for the Hardys is to see how well their road to because I mean it's well known, you know, and confirmed, you know, where they're headed come back for glory, a final showdown with the Dudleys Team 3. So it'll be interesting to see how we kind of get to there. Could the title could they lose the titles by then? Will it be for the tag titles? Personally, I hope not, because I think other teams could do that. But yeah, you know, man, Jeff, you know, still, you know, riding high and stuff. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that because a scenario where, like, let's say, you know, they're obviously beating the Dudleys. I think I had, now I remember I mentioned before, I could see the Dudleys coming back to be the ones that induct them. You know, the team that beats the Hardys, the Hall of Fame Hardys for the titles would go a long way in putting that team over. So, yeah, I hope they don't lose the titles anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next week is going to get a Santino segment. I really like this because I can't remember when someone did a segment where like they had the authority figure just come out and basically name matches for the pay, you know what I mean? Just like that, like in a segment. But he's some good shit. You know, we got C. Maclin, Jake something, and no count out, no DQ match for the for the international title. My bad. We have Mike Santana versus Sami Callihan, which I think it's one of the more intriguing matches on the card, just because, you know, this is Callihan trying to find his smile, basically, and, you know, is the best way I could put it. And then we have Fatal Influence versus the Elegance brand versus the Inspiration versus Zaya, Brookside, and Lee for the Knockouts title, which I think, and again, we talked about the segment before, I like that because you had mentioned the Elegance brand on a losing streak, and as you saw in the graphic showed it was going to be Maggie and Heather. So apparently they are doing the Freebird rule.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, on the graphic, you see Ash. I'm sorry, you see Heather and M side by side, and Ash is like in a small corner. So I figure, like, yeah, they are going with the free bird rule. It was very interesting. Yeah, maybe Ash feels like. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll get our. Well, obviously, I'm sure we'll get our answer later. But so maybe it feels like Ash is putting a lot of pressure on Heather and M in particularly, like go and defend these belts and don't disappoint me, because as we, you know, as we see how angry Ashkin gets, so pressure is on for, yeah, Heather and M to, yeah, win these ones. But yeah, obviously the elephant in the room interesting is fatal influence in this match, Fallon and Jasmine. And my buddy Draven put in a tweet there like TNA is gonna have hell to pay if we lose another title to another NXT talent. And for our sakes, I'm hoping that doesn't be the case. So I'm gonna be a little I'm gonna be a little biased here. Yeah, any team but Fatal Influence winning this match. Sorry. That's something.
Let me just say, I think the Elegance brand being advertised, from what we can tell, we don't have any confirmation as they're running the Freebird rule. One, it just makes it two things, because either you could have it as an excuse for them to drop the titles because it's not Ash and Heather,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I would like that, just because I could see a team like Zaya and Ying winning, because I think that I want to see them as a team. But two, I actually kind of want the Elegance brand to win. It's because if they're going to run the Freebird rule, I want to see them become a dominant team, similar to like the way the New Day, how they could put any two out there and they were just as dominant, and they were different kind of matches. You know, you're going to get a different match than when it was Big E, either Kofi or Xavier Woods with them, opposed to Xavier and Kofi out there. So, but to your point, I look at, I don't want to make TNA fans upset, but I could see a likely scenario where Fatal Influence wins. They have a short run where Fatal Influence has all the titles, and you build to, like you said, then I would have Masha win her title back at BFG. Then I would have a team like Zaya and Lee win the tag team titles that night, because they're really right now they're like the only face team. I guess the inspiration, but you know what I mean. I could see Fatal Influence winning. I'm not gonna lie. I know TNA fans would be really upset, but it's not going to be like forever.
I don't know, man. I don't know, bro. It's still at the end of the day, it's still like the result that still kind of will settle in like
Yeah,
one, not two, but three belts being held by outsiders. But I mean, we'll see. I can understand, I can understand why a match of this magnitude, having like they're basically like the top duo in NXT. So and Jacy has the knockouts title, so it was only fitting that it was only a matter of time or fitting that Fallon and Jasmine were gonna try to get their own goals. So, but yeah, this is the TNA fan of me saying like hopefully that's not the case.
the elegant. I'm with you. The Elegance brand should win just because them riding the storm basically are this little losing streak. You know what I mean? I want them to win because I think
Yeah.
they have something really going with all three of them as a trio now.
Mm.
So,
What's
yeah, but
funny
I
is
really
like yeah, what's funny is like no one's really talked about the inspiration in this. I mean, even though like they already had their shot, but like they kind of bounced back from the live episode with so.
Mhm.
So yeah, all four teams basically got something to prove in this match, which is interesting.
and four teams basically, three TNA teams and one NXT. This division's cooking now, so
Yeah.
good for them for rebuilding. The segment wasn't over. Morella called out the Santino called out the Nemitz. Um, I really like this part.
Mm.
Santino basically told them that they're not getting their rematch. I like how Ryan was like. I like how Nick basically said that people come to see him. He's the star, and he said, "And Ryan." But he didn't. It's not like he
Yeah,
called
that
Ryan a
yeah, that
star.
part. Yeah.
But yeah, I basically told Nick because he put his hands on two more officials, he's suspended, and because
Mm.
of that, he's going to miss Emergence. And Ryan will be taking on the hometown man, which should be a fun match. That should be fun.
Yeah. Pretty 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 fun. Yeah. Yeah, Baltimore's own hometown man against the Hollywood hunk. Yeah.
I wonder what jersey he'll come out in. I'm assuming it'll be a Ravens jersey, but
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Next, we're going to go into last but not least the main event, which
Yeah,
I
this
think,
was
despite I'm going to let you take this. I just want to say, despite a little bit more interference than I would like, I thought this was the match of the night. This was tremendous. But what do you think about this?
this was I've said this when it was advertised. This is a pay-per-view main event caliber that should have happened when Joe was the champion. Um as you can see, Mustafa is one of those guys like where you put him in the ring with anybody is gonna be a fun, exciting match. Like the matches he's had with Chris Sabin, Speedball, Ace Austin, Jake something, Mike Santana, Cedric Alexander. I know I'm listening now. Like now with Joe Hendry is like Mustafa. Yeah, he can really as great as he is as a character, and I applaud him that. Like he's also like one of those like not afraid to like kind of like put his body on the line to put on a good show and a good match. But yeah, this was yeah, but for tonight this was yeah, all base storytelling. Uh all I mean Hendry like it literally took it's like it literally took it literally took not only order four but the whole security team to put down Joe. So like I like that they made Joe kind of like Super Cena here. Cause like it took like everyone to put him down, even that big guy, the Asian Zero, as his name. So Yeah, this was a good main event, a good main event, a good showing, and a big win for Mustafa. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm. I honestly also think that, and I think credit has to be given. Some credit has to be given to Mustafa Ali as well in this. Besides Joe, I think this was Joe's best match I've seen him have in a while.
Yeah,
A credit to Ali, though. You know what I mean? Ali brought that out of him. Ali's one of the best workers going. So, yeah, there were a lot of great spots in this match. One of them that stood out to me is Ali went for a jumping DDT from like the middle rope, and Hendry caught him out of midair, hit a suplex on that. I think that was very, Joe's got that, he's a strength. He basically got a power move guy. You know what I mean? That's
yeah,
what he's going to bring in his matches. He's going to show that. He damn near took on the whole Secret Service at the end. He hit, and then at one point, there was a sequence where he hit a pop up power bomb and an AA, and the ref was a little late. The new ref was getting a little late getting down there. That would led to basically like a 2.75 count, 2.9. But
oh,
Joe
yeah.
showed
Tasha,
out
oh
in
yeah,
this match.
Tasha deserves a raise,
Yeah,
because twice, she saved Ali, from being defeated and stuff. And credit to the good hands. I mean, the great hands too. Doing everything. But yeah, the difference maker was that big tall guy, Agent Zero.
the new head, Agent Zero, the heavy,
The
who
head
they're
of
booking
the head of the
already.
secretary. Yeah, the head of the secretary team.
TNA does a really good job booking their, like, especially when they put like a heavy, this reminds me of, basically like your Madman Fultons, your Joe Dorians. Whenever they have a group and there's a big guy in it, they do a really good job making that guy stand out as like the monster. So yeah, I really like this addition to Order 4, which it's funny. It's like when Fortune 4 when they would come out with like 8 people. You know what I mean? It's not really that bad, but it's just funny. But yeah, Ollie gets to win after Agent Zero hits a gigantic big boot on Joe Hendry, throws him back in the ring. Ali hits the picture perfect 450, you know what I mean, for the win. Order 4 is looking better than ever. Like you said, the angle right now, especially one of the subplots, is Order 4 is firing on all cylinders. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
a complete unit right now. They're one. They know what they're supposed to do. So yeah,
yeah.
I thought this was a
Most
great
of
way to
yeah,
end the show.
most of them made it clear that Dot Order 4 is the top faction in TNA, and right now it seems like he's on his way to kind of like proclaiming that, because he did something that neither member of the system were able to do, and that's defeat Joe Hendry, and Mustafa did that. So but yeah, I think I also mentioned this too, like, this things are only just getting started for this group and Mustafa in particular. I think likely by 2026 he might actually be the world champion bubble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so too.
yeah,
I could see a scenario where TNA does a show next year from Chicago, Ali headlining that one and putting the
yeah,
world title.
yeah. I could see that.
Uh, but yeah, I thought this was, again, like I said, this was a great way to end the show. Phenomenal main event.
Hmm.
But with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining. Make sure to like and subscribe this show. That way you get notified whenever we go live, whenever anybody, the great people on Body Slam go live. But with that being said, we'll see you next week and have a good night.
You know.
Oh, thank you! Oh, thank you! Thank you!